To talk about post-psychiatry, I've got to define psychiatry first of all. Psychiatry is a medical discipline that is focused around the definition, study and physical treatment of madness. The term we use is psychosis, and some of the effects are hearing voices, feelings of paranoia. Oh, and here are some of the problems of psychiatry. Psychiatry has to deal with some of the fundamental philosophical puzzles of humanity, whether we're controlled by mind or brain, free will determinism, nature and nurture. These are probably unsolvable, and we try and solve them with medication. The medical model locates psychosis within the brain. It states that there is either a flaw in the functioning or in the structure of the brain. There are some benefits to this model, but largely it's still unproven, but it's got a terrifying amount of political power behind it. The way you make a psychiatric diagnosis, there's no existing clinical tests for schizophrenia or psychosis or bipolar. It's all made on observed and reported behaviours. But the doctor has to rule out physical damage to the brain and neurological deficit, but then it treats the condition as if it is a neurological deficit. That's a prime paradox. And this leads us to neurosurgery, which isn't really that fashionable anymore, but certainly a lot of ECT or electroconvulsive therapy is all carried out with pretty devastating effects on the people who experience it. Now, the evidence to tell us that such treatments are justified states that there's a problem in the functioning or the structure of the brain, but the images that we've got, it doesn't delineate between the cause of psychosis or the effects of the medication. Medication is pretty much the first line of treatment for people with these problems, even though all the guidelines say it needs to be done for a short amount of time and in conjunction with talking therapies, but in reality that hardly ever happens. The medications do carry an awful lot of pretty dreadful side effects with them, including, we got some of them on the side. The most scary one, I think, is that men will lactate, which is sort of like giving milk from their breasts. There's also, it shaves off your life expectancy about 10 to 25 years, and if you ever stop taking them, there's a really high risk of increased psychosis, which for something which is marketed as an antipsychotic is pretty scary. Community treatment orders are a new piece of legislation where the person can be physically removed to hospital and forcibly injected with medication. There was an audit done on these quite recently, and we're using much more than we ever expected, so there's a high amount of overuse. This is quite a captive market then for the people who are told they need this medication. As you can see, cross-party parliamentary inquiry shows that the pharmaceutical industry has got an undue level of influence. They fund an awful lot of research, and there's some very insidious marketing campaigns in all the hospitals. Now, anti-psychiatry objects to the social and political aspects of theory and practice, and it demonstrates that a lot of the patterns of social exclusion we've got are really mirrored in the diagnostic patterns. A criticism that is given to anti-psychiatry is that anti-psychiatry has apparently claimed that schizophrenia is caused by mothers, but this is quite an effective piece of biopsychiatric propaganda. To say that it's all in nature is as stupid as saying it's all in nurture. Anti-psychiatry also objects to the medicalisation of society. It focuses on solving the behaviour rather than addressing the social issues that give rise to it. As Huxley would say, a gram is always better than a dam, where we just drug our way out of misery and unhappiness. Post-psychiatry, then, is an end to the reductive models of nature and nurture. It's got part consumerism within it, although that's problematic in psychiatry, and also a healthy dose of postmodernism, where we've agreed that we don't really know anything about reality. The way this looks in contemporary mental health services is that we've got biological, psychological and sociological theories all coming together, and this is more than just a middle point of different professional disciplines. As a social worker, I'm in on the sociological end of it. It's more about the midpoint between objectivity and subjectivity, which postmodernism tells us is, bunk anyway. We need to stop making these very artificial divisions between experiences. I have Asher there to demonstrate, as you can see, for all the good that does. Carl Jaspers. This really irritates me. Carl Jaspers was a psychiatrist as well as being an existentialist phenomenologist, and he said that if he did not understand it, it was non-understandable, which, coming from an existentialist phenomenologist, is pretty fucking unforgivable, I would have thought. Now, if you look at the content of people's psychotic experiences, there's usually a correlation between their life story and what they are experiencing. A lot of the people I work with tell me that they're being controlled, their brains are being watched and monitored, and considering I spend a lot of my working day asking them exactly what they're feeling, what they're doing, whether it's not unreasonable, really. There's a lot of study that says the content of psychotic experiences should be understood as a metaphor, and that the experience of madness isn't meaningless. It just takes a little bit more effort on behalf of the person talking to them to try and understand what it's all about. And it is all the highs and lows that make us human. This isn't to say that people who do experience these things are to be trivialized, because the experiences are terrifying. But at the same time, if we say it's meaningless, we automatically stop empathizing with people, and it's pretty scientifically incomplete to say that something's meaningless and beyond understanding. And I've finished. Thank you.